Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the first day of Lifelong Learning Week, which is brought to you by CareerMap. My name is Heather Reynolds. I'm the Account Director at CareerMap, and this afternoon we are running a session with BCS, who are the Chartered Institute for IT. This afternoon we're joined by the team, Zoe Spielberg, she's the Head of Education at BCS, Andrew Irwich, who's the Market Enablement Director at Apprenticeships QA. And we have our career changers who'll be joining a panel discussion who are, who we've got here, Jacqueline Tinson, who is Technology Analyst at Nationwide, Liz Wright, who's Digital Marketer at Phase Digital. And we've also got Jordan, who is Technical Services Engineer at Secure Envoy. So before I hand over to the team, I would like to just do a couple of whole information. Sorry, getting all stage fright here because it's the first day of Lifelong Learning Week. I'd like to just introduce what they'll be talking about. So they'll be talking about developing your digital skills, what it means in terms of developing your current role or in your current field, and also venturing into technology from a completely different background. The career changes in particular will be drawing from their own experiences, so feel free to ask them anything. In terms of housekeeping, this session is being recorded, so it will be available on demand on the Lifelong Learning Week website in a couple of weeks, but we will also be emailing it out to everybody who's registered here today, so you will be able to ask any questions to the team through the contact links if you don't get the opportunity to do so today. So I would just like to say thank you very much, team. Over to you. I'm going to turn my camera and microphone off, and over to you, Zoe.
Thanks very much, Heather. So I'll just start with a brief introduction to BCS, who we are and what we do. At BCS, the Chartered Institute for IT, is the UK's professional body for computing, and we accomplish our overarching objective to make IT good for society through the unerring work and dedication of our members, staff, volunteers, partners and like-minded organisations that support and align with our values and vision. We're on a mission to ensure everybody's experience with technology is positive and to raise standards of competence and conduct across the IT industry, and have been doing so for over 60 years. So everything we do at BCS is built on our strategic pillars, and I'll just give you a little detail about what these encompass. If I wouldn't mind having the next slide, please, Heather. Thank you. So membership, our members are at the heart of our community. We've got over 60,000 members across 150 countries. And whether you're just taking some initial steps towards moving to work in the IT industry through being a student or an apprentice, or you're early into your career, or you're an established professional and leader in your sector, there's a place and grade of membership for all. Those early on in their journey can connect with industry professionals through networking or mentorships, and can access practical tools to discover and develop skills and enhance their career prospects. Those who are more established in their career can have their skills recognised through professional registrations and can demonstrate ongoing commitment to the industry and offer up influence and expertise through mentoring and thought leadership. Next slide, please. Inspiration. This is around our inclusive network of teachers, researchers, tutors, practitioners who work with BCS to advance computing as a discipline within schools. In recent years, we've helped grow the number of computing teachers and have played a pivotal role in changing the national curriculum, helping to drive policy, such as the addition of computer science now being included as the fourth science in the EBAC school performance measures. BCS also provides teacher training scholarships and a range of professional development, teaching and assessment resources. Next slide, thank you. In the field of influence, our Royal Charter means we're responsible for raising the standards of IT education, professionalism, ethics and practice. And as such, we take on the big issues in IT, connecting industry, education and government to shape policy really and bring about ethical advancements. We're constantly working to address the digital challenges facing our society to ensure technology's impact is positive for everyone. By looking to uphold the highest ethical standards and practices in our increasingly and rapidly changing digital landscape, BCS has succeeded now in becoming a highly influential voice in the tech sector. Next slide, please. Thank you. Finally, if we look at our work on career progression, This is where we focus on supporting members of our digital society with opportunities to develop their IT skills with BCS qualifications. With the growing and critical demand for digitally literate employees across all sectors, everyone really has got access to training to suit their needs, and many qualifications are funded through a number of routes. So today we'll have the chance to hear from 3 people who have changed careers using retraining opportunities. And BCS offers accessible programs from early entry point qualifications for those with little or no previous digital familiarity, through to those looking to want to get a recognised qualification to evidence the workplace skills they do have or want to develop. We've also got degree level qualifications, as well as a portfolio of over 90 professional certifications for those looking to take their careers to the next level. As well, of course, BCS is the IT industry's trusted endpoint assessment organisation for digital apprenticeships. And as such, we've now assessed well over 10,000 apprentices. Many of our qualifications are aligned with BCS membership and professional registration. So you get much more than just your certificate when choosing a BCS qualification. You get the opportunity to join us for a lifetime of learning. So before we finish, I'm just going to show you a quick 1-minute video about one of our newest qualifications to support those who have the need for basic and entry-level skills to build confidence and readiness for the workplace. So this you're just about to see is just a little taster of our new Essential Digital Skills for Work qualification. Thank you, Heather. Thank you. I think over to you, Andrew, for introduction. Back to the slides, please, Heather, when you have a minute.
Thank you so much, Zoe, and hi, everyone. What a great video to follow, to be honest. I mean, it really highlights the importance, I suppose, of not just jobs in tech, but tech-enabled jobs and how the landscape is changing across every single industry out there. And that's kind of what I want to talk a little bit about today, giving a bit of an introduction to QA and what we do, and then go into some of the detail on what we're hoping to achieve in the coming year and beyond, and then give you a view of the kind of courses that make up, I suppose, lifelong learning for each of our learners, and where the appropriate kind of step-on points might be for yourselves as individuals. So for some context to start with, thank you, Heather. We've been doing this for about 30 years now, so about half the time with BCS, but it's still made quite a big impact in terms of technology and digital training. And some highlights over that last 30 years are kind of on the screen in terms of delivering technical training to over 6,500 employers in the UK and globally, and training over 1 million learners since we began. And that's really taken off over the last 5 or 6 years across the acquisition of our digital platforms and new ways of learning, as well as access to additional funded qualifications. So 30,000 apprenticeships over the last decade, which is really kind of my remit and where I get more involved with supporting our employer partners and our learners. I think it's closer to about 33,000 now, but one of the things that still kind of highlights with me is that it hasn't been enough to really bridge the digital skills gap that we're seeing in the UK and worldwide today, in terms of the emerging technologies and the skills required to do some of the jobs that were just shown in that video. are exponentially rising and at a rate that skills acquisition and learning hasn't caught up with just yet. So we're working on a couple of initiatives, I suppose. And if we look at the next slide, I'll start at the bottom 2 points on there. Heather, if you could just move forward one. So yeah, it's going to start on the bottom 2 points, really, working with our employer partners in an effort to bridge the digital skills gap. And as a result of those two things, which I'll talk a bit more about in a second, we're hoping to solve some of the problems in the top 3 points on this. And it's really that comes with the realization that working with employers is probably the only way now to make a really fundamental difference in terms of the skills landscape across the UK for people moving out of education and into employment. How do we bridge the gap between the two to create the work-ready skills that employers need? And how do we continue training individuals to support them through their careers to keep up pace with emerging technologies, new ways of working, and the very way that businesses evolve? And I think all of us here have probably seen some fairly seismic changes in our own behaviors over the last 12 to 18 months in regards shopping online, researching online. It's become more digital across every single aspect of our lives. And that's really important to reflect on, because we're not just talking about work here. We're talking about digital skills for life. And the importance of embedding meaningful change in the way that we learn and the way we interact with tech is becoming more and more important, both for work readiness and for quality of life. I think, Satya Nadella really summed it up when he talked about operational efficiencies through technology. And for those who don't know, Satya Nadella is the chief executive officer of Microsoft. What he said is, what if he could get more out of every single moment of his life? And that's what he justifies the emerging technologies and the advances that Microsoft have made. It's all around quality of life. It's around productivity. It's about the things that we measure success on, both in the workplace and within our own lives. And that's really what we're trying to achieve at QA through creating lifelong learning pathways and enabling access to tech training across every single walk of life. So we just jump on to the next slide. I'll try and bring that to life a little bit for you. Some of you hopefully will be aware of our Teach the Nation events. Now, these are free Saturday afternoon workshops or Saturday workshops, are deliberately designed to create entry-level skills and introductions to things like coding, data analytics, cloud technologies, Salesforce, and other vendor partners that we work with to create early skills. We then follow this with a series of early learning interventions, what we call tech talent accelerators, that they're akin to traineeships, T-levels, other level 3 qualifications that are provided across the marketplace, and DFE boot camps. These are all funded opportunities available to create new skills for individuals looking to move into a new career or to develop entry-level skills so they can start their first moves into technology. Then you move on to kind of apprenticeships and postgraduate qualifications. So level 3 through to level 7, A-level equivalent to master's level equivalent apprenticeship programs. Again, fully funded by the government, supported whilst you're in a relevant and appropriate job role to develop the skills, not just that you need now, but you will need in the future, and becoming a more and more popular learning mechanism for employers. Even through COVID, we saw digital skills apprenticeships increase on prior years across the country, which is really exciting to see the focus and benefits that are being realized by individuals and employers through these kind of programs. And then lastly, because learning doesn't finish. I read a book called Natural Born Learners by a chap called Alexander Beard, and he's a self-professed average teacher, but has recognized that learning is the very soul of our species. And what he does in that book is talk about the fact that it never ends. And the most important responsibility for educators is to actually teach people to learn how to learn and how to enjoy it. And that's where we focus on our sector-specific skills, our higher level qualifications through our higher education divisions, and some of the bespoke programs we write with our partners and our employers, all with learners in mind, and making sure that we reach the experiences that you guys as learners want to realize to move forwards in your careers. And what I'm hoping now will happen is a few of the learners that have joined some of our programs and some more programs nationally will talk about some of their experiences. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's really helpful, Zoe and Andrew. Yes, I would like to introduce now our career changes. So as you can see on the screen here, this is going to be Jordan Delaney. He's Technical Services Engineer at Secure Envoy. We've got Jacqueline Tinson, who's Technology Analyst at Nationwide, and Liz Wright, who's Digital Marketing at Phase Digital. And I think if we can ask the panel to kind of turn their cameras and their microphones on and now join us and say hello.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. I think what would be really, really helpful if we could just talk to you as individuals, just one by one, just talking us through your journey and your path. So what your background is, what you're doing now, and why you're doing that, and how you got there. And just for, I mean, there's 400 people in the room today right now. So, you know, just to express to everybody here kind of what this has done for you, and what other people out there who are listening thinking, you know, what's for me, can apply it to themselves. As if I say, Jordan, do you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely fine. I was going to say, let's go from the top first. So, hi, everybody. My name's Jordan. I work for Secure Envoy as a technical services engineer. I've been here for about 2 years this month coming up. So we're an identity provider, and we specialize in identity and access management and multi-factor authentication. So before I was working within the IT industry, or the cyber industry, as I'd say, I was doing retail work. So I was working for a couple of retailers since I was 15, and I was working with that and balancing college education as well. I did that, and I studied at college at the Academy of Contemporary Music in Guildford. I did a music diploma there. And whilst I liked music, I did realise quite quickly it wasn't a financially sustainable job role or a career that I could go into. It was more of a hobby that I wanted to do. So in terms of going through from that, I was thinking best way to go about it is go into an industry which is booming, which is accelerating, and which needs people. And IT and technology as a whole definitely needs that. So I started looking for new jobs while I was working in retail, and I went onto the Gov UK website and I found a QA apprenticeship from there. I did quite a lot of searching. QA came up as one of the best ones I could go for. I had a couple of interviews with Secure Envoy and was quite quickly offered a job. And as I said, I've been with Secure Envoy for 2 years now, and really enjoying it. All of the support that I've had from QA throughout my time has been brilliant, alongside all of my team with at Secure Envoy as well. It's been brilliant. I did a level 3 infrastructure engineer apprenticeship beforehand. I'm now on to a level 4 cybersecurity technologist apprenticeship. I finished with my level 3 apprenticeship with a distinction grade, so I was really proud of that, and then moved on, progressed up into level 4. Stereotypes, I guess one of the big stereotypes within apprenticeships and within working within technology and IT is that you need to know everything or a lot. And one thing I just want to say off the bat is you don't. It's definitely not something that you need to have. It's not a basic understanding. It's probably the most that employers will ask for, because QA provide the training that you need, and you really get on the job learning as well as certifications as you're going. So for my learning and how I wanted to go, rather than going to university, I wanted to do something like an apprenticeship where I could get on the job learning and the certifications at the same time, and it's worked out really well in my benefit. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I think that's what I'll leave it at. If there's anyone else that wants to chime in from now, I don't know who's next.
Well, what I would just actually ask you, Jordan, just before we move on to Jacqueline, was if you could just give us a bit of an idea of what you've enjoyed most so far about your experience, and also what you found most challenging. I think that would be really useful to know as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So wasn't a whole lot of challenges really. In terms of what I've enjoyed, there was something within retail. It's something I remember even saying in my interviews and whatnot that I had with Secure Envoy, that within the retail industry, I was in autopilot. That was one of the main things that I said, that I didn't feel like I was learning anything. I didn't feel like I was being challenged. And moving into the technology industry, especially for being in there for a couple of years now, I've definitely seen a big change in that I'm challenged on a daily basis. No day is the same. Every day is different. And there's many things that you will learn that I wouldn't have learned if I was in the retail industry. Challenges, it's quite difficult to actually think of one really for my time here at the moment. I guess it is initial nerves for myself was one of the main things going into the industry, and not thinking that I would do very well in the industry, and probably go into it and not enjoy it as much as I'd have hoped. But that turned around very quickly. I really enjoyed it. The team I worked with were fantastic. QA were brilliant with my courses and my learning. It was really easy to do with learning. And I guess another challenge as well, one other was, and that was more recent, was the COVID pandemic, and thinking that a lot of my learning would have to be at home, doing remote working, but QA just switched to remote working very quickly, gave us a new timetable, and we were up with doing remote learning rather than in classrooms after that. And then vice versa with work as well. I was also remote working from there, but it was a challenge at first, because it was a completely new way of working, especially from being in the retail industry to going into a brand new industry and then being hit with a global pandemic. It was nothing that anybody expected, but it turned out in my favor for sure.
Brilliant. And actually, I've just had a couple of questions come through that are specifically for you, Jordan, if you don't just mind hanging around for a moment. First of all, how old are you? Because the question is around somebody who's asking that they suppose the older you get, the harder it is to find an apprenticeship. And to be honest, Andrew, you might be able to chip in here as well. Like, is that right or wrong?
Don't think so. So I'll jump in first if you like. So I don't think age is a barrier at all. I think the oldest apprentice currently in the UK is 63. I started my apprenticeship at the ripe old age of 41, and 55% of QA's current apprentices in digital are over the age of 25. So, I mean, that covers a few decade gaps there, but hopefully that gives you an indication of how accessible they can be. And they're all designed, anyone can join an apprenticeship, providing they're in a relevant job role and that the apprenticeship is going to provide them new learning. And that's the most important thing, really, new skills acquisition and relevance to the role that you're in or are moving into.
Okay, lovely. Andrew, I've got another question here. I think you're probably best placed to answer. Are there any apprenticeships in AI?
Yeah, there are a couple of options, really, depending on individual academic level. There's a level 7 apprenticeship program that AI data specialist focuses on AI and machine learning. Equally, AI features in a number of both the degree apprenticeship programs, especially the way we've built it with professional practice modules that enables you to do individual modules. There are also elements of AI in both the software developer and the level 4 data analytics program. Brilliant.
Jordan, just one more for you before I move over to Jacqueline. And I think actually all of the career changes could probably add this into kind of what they're going to tell us. Can you tell me a bit more about the support that you received? I'm looking to transition into digital, but have no previous experience. That is essentially your situation there, is it, that you've just spoken about your background in retail? But yeah, can you tell us a bit more about that support that you've got and how it's kind of enabled you to be, do what you're doing now?
Yeah, for sure. I was very, very beneficial because at Secure Envoy, there's the guys that are in my team. They've got a lot of experience behind them as well. So it was very easy to pick up different parts of experience from people who had the experience as well. In terms of how helpful it was very helpful. I was having a lot of different communication, daily meetings with my team, with my manager, to learn new parts and new aspects. I was told straight off of the outset that it's not an overnight process that you can learn something, could learn cybersecurity overnight, and it's the expectation of that can't be put in a hand. And that's what I think QA integrate into that as well, while we have 12-15 month level 3 apprenticeship, 18-month level 4 apprenticeships, because it's not something that can be taught overnight. There's lots of learning around it, and it's exciting stuff. If you want to learn something new and interesting, then you've got all of the resources available that you would need from QA. But if you have the support within your work as well, with your employers too, which I was fortunate enough to have, and QA as a whole, I believe in terms of criteria, look for active learners as well, and employers that look to employ new learners who would like to learn as well. One of my directors of my company is a former apprentice as well, so when he brought on myself, he was very kind of enthusiastic about my learning and making sure that I was getting the best learning, and if there wasn't something that I would get, that he would explain it to me as well. And then if he wasn't available, then one of the other members of the team would as well. So I've been very fortunate, especially in my own company, to come into a workplace where they're so supportive. Unfortunately, I can't comment for everyone else. I'm sure that the other learners as well will be able to say their experiences, and it'll be very similar. But for myself, I've been very fortunate with that, having a workplace that's so supportive.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's wonderful. Jacqueline, so you're technology analyst at Nationwide. Can you tell us, about your journey and your path, and, what you're doing now and how you've got there and your aspirations?
Yes, definitely. So as you mentioned, I'm part of the technology development program for Nationwide, which has been designed for career changes with the help of QA. So it's the accelerator path. It is an 18-month program. I'm at the end of the program now. But before I actually joined Nationwide, I always worked in finance and business school about 5 years ago. So I'm originally from Brazil, and working in finance in Brazil, and even growing up, I don't actually remember have been shown any women that actually worked in tech. So in my mind, that was not, an opportunity, even though I was always interested in technology and building my own, project at home. I was never, encouraged.
Yeah, you didn't have the people above you to kind of
exactly. The same way. Yes, I didn't have that support. I didn't have the opportunity. I didn't have any bigger towns around as well where I could perhaps train. So when I moved to the UK 5 years ago, I was a bit in shock. Oh, women can do all of this. It's amazing. I didn't know that actually existed. In my comfort zone, what I knew, because I was at the same time learning a new language and developing that further. But once I started breaking those limiting beliefs of, oh, actually, I'm allowed to do this. It's okay for me to try something new. I started finding different areas. So I started learning a little bit of coding on my own time, doing some basic SQL queries, utilizing VBA a little bit more within my role, until I actually found Nationwide's program, which was brilliant, which meant that I didn't need to actually have a pay cut, that I worked really hard to progress with my career, but at the same time was able to receive all the training that in partnership with QA I received. So I have been studying for my BCS diploma in business analysis. I have been working in an area within Nationwide, which deals with identity and access management, very similar to Jordan in that sense. But also being within this program really allowed me to develop a growth mindset. So it was okay to not know. I wasn't expected to know everything in tech. And as Jordan has said brilliantly, there's no way that you can learn everything that there is to know about technology. It's impossible. But it's about having the soft skills, it's about having the right mindset and building relationship and trying different things so you know where you can find the answer and where you can develop. So I have been very fortunate to receive very different streams of support within the program so far. So I have mentors for coding. I have mentors within my business area that are senior engineers working over me, just helping me develop. But I also have the TDP managers and QA just to help should I need to, which has been fantastic. So I highly recommend, if you are in the same position of trying to move careers, and if you are a woman or if you're a mother, if you have a diverse background, don't be afraid. You can definitely do this. And I think the most limiting thing that we have in our minds is what will happen if I fail. And in IT, we say it's okay to fail, but fail fast and learn from it. So I think that is the main thing for me, really.
That's brilliant. And Jacqueline, what are your goals or aspirations for the future? Where do you hope and plan for your career to take you to?
Yeah, so as I said, I'm just finishing my TDP program now, but as Andrew has said, learning never stops. So I do have some more planning. I do want to become essentially E2 at some point. I'm not overly ambitious, as being a career change is really hard for me to pinpoint, oh, I want to end up in this role, because there's so many different areas. But I do want to develop my coding skills a bit more, having that technical mindset of, if I do this, this will affect that, even for my tech role, that will help me further. But yeah, in the ideal world, in following the happy path, I would like to be a tech lead at some point and help mentoring other people as well.
Yeah, exactly. You can be that person, that mentor that you didn't have, I suppose.
Exactly.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. Liz, please go ahead and tell us your story. Your digital marketing at Phase Digital.
Yes, so I'm doing a level 3 digital marketing apprenticeship. It's kind of been quite similar in that I started in design, so I have experience in kind of web, but not in any sense marketing. I pretty much pursued art and design from school all the way through from GCSE to college, and then when the time came for me to go to university, I actually I knew I wanted to do something a bit different, and the course that jumped out to me the most was interior design. So I actually spent 3 years training in interior design, and it was, a fantastic course, very creative. And I enjoyed all 3 years of my university. I graduated with a 2-1. I got into a job in interiors company, which was quite hard at the time, because most of the roles were in London or abroad, because it's kind of a niche industry still. But yeah, within 3 months of graduating, I had a job in an interior design company, and I was so pleased about it, because a lot of my friends actually struggled to get into a relevant job, and most went back into working in retail or office jobs. But I found it was a lot different to university. I learned a lot of new softwares, ways of working, processes, and things like that. But it was quite a small company, and there was only one other designer in the team, so there wasn't, many people for me to learn off of. And quite quickly I found that even though it was a creative job, a lot of my projects were always restricted by budgets, time, resources, lots of external factors, and that I just didn't get a lot of job satisfaction. And the amount of stress I was under, I kind of thought, is it really worth it for me? And it was just a bit of a wake-up call, working in what I thought was the ideal job for me, and that what I wanted to do with my career. And I just kind of fell out of love with the idea of being an interior designer. So given that there weren't a lot of other interior design jobs around, I actually ended up working for Next Retail, their head office. I worked in their production studio, and because I had experience in Photoshop, I worked as like an editor, working on imagery and video for about 3 years. And it was a comfortable role, but I knew at the time that it was kind of a stepping stone, and that I wanted to go into something else, but I wasn't sure what that was going to be. So I kind of went through a few other roles, like admin assistant roles at other companies, mainly retail companies. And it wasn't until COVID last year that it occurred to me it was the perfect time to kind of reassess what I wanted to do. And I think I spent about 6 months researching roles in different industries. I spoke to a few different people about their jobs, and tried to understand you know, if my skills were transferable, where would they fit in a job? And I ended up settling on digital marketing because I thought it was the kind of the perfect combination of creative, analytical, and critical thinking skills. And you know, I'd always had an interest in branding and marketing, and I'm quite quick to learning digital softwares. So it kind of seemed the perfect direction for me. And plus, being a digital role, I knew, you know, a lot of digital based roles are heading in the direction that they're kind of future proof in a sense. So I just started applying for marketing roles. I knew that I didn't have necessarily relevant experience, but I was happy to start from the bottom, and I just found that I couldn't get my foot in the door. Unfortunately, marketing is a really competitive industry. There's loads of marketing graduates, you know, beating me to even basic roles because they have a degree and experience in the softwares that are required. So I didn't have the experience, degree, or the skills, and it was kind of deflating because, you know, it seemed like no one was willing to give me a chance, even though I had all these soft skills and other, you know, digital skills. I did consider another degree. I considered online courses, unpaid placements, all of which were kind of not ideal for my situation. I actually ended up speaking to Milton Keynes College about their marketing qualifications they were offering, and they actually suggested an apprenticeship to me. I'd never considered an apprenticeship because I didn't think I was even eligible for one, being 30. But I quickly realised that actually it was a great opportunity because it was a chance to get into the industry I wanted. And that also being an apprentice meant there were no expectations from day one. You know, I had the freedom to learn, to have a wage at the end of the day, and to just build on the skills that I already had. So skip forward, you know, 6 months of interviews, and Past Digital took a chance on me, and I'm about 6 months into my apprenticeship now. I'm really enjoying it, kind of the combination of learning at college, and also, you know, putting it into practice in my role. I've actually learned a massive amount in 6 months. I can't believe, given that from day one I thought I knew nothing, to where I am now, working with clients on like email marketing campaigns, and just really, you know, doing a lot of problem solving, which I didn't think would be possible either, because I didn't think I knew enough about the software and the technology I was working in. But, you know, Past they gave me a really good training program at the beginning. I got used to the software. You know, I was gradually introduced to working with clients and a lot of the processes, and it's just been a really great experience. Like, I'm actually looking forward to sort of where it's heading.
Brilliant. That's really interesting, actually, because I think that for so many people out there, I think COVID has really been that, given that epiphany of, right, I'm really not happy with what I'm doing for X, Y, and Z reasons. And it really has given so many people, maybe not yet be in the position to actually go and make, you know, that application and to go for that role, but it's really started some cogs turning, thinking like you did, what can I do to change this? And I think that COVID has really been that kind of linchpin for that kind of decision in people's minds. I have got a couple more questions for you, if that's okay, Liz.
Yep.
The first one being that it's just been posted by Brian. Hi, Liz. Do you feel that you've used any of your skills learned from interior design in your digital marketing role?
Well, I suppose one of the most basic one is email, like Outlook, just being able to navigate through and send emails to clients, and, you know, being quite professional. But it's mainly soft skills, obviously communication and just teamwork, project management, things like that. Obviously, in interior design, I did use skills such as Photoshop for editing images and even making videos and things. And occasionally I do that in marketing. You know, digital marketing may require for you to do something social media based, or, you know, even email marketing might require images or videos. So I do find that from time to time I do utilize those skills, and we do have that software that enables me to do that. But I think it's just a case of saying, you know, if I can learn, you know, the you know, Photoshop, I can then learn this program which has a similar interface, and it's just really being open to learning.
Experience to give you that confidence.
Yeah.
Brilliant. There was a question earlier on when you were talking, which was, and I suppose you have kind of answered it, but if you could just tell us again what you feel the biggest challenge moving into a digital role or into the digital sector has been, coming from your background.
I think it's that you know, it's a new area and that you don't know anything, and you think, well, how am I ever going to learn any of this? Because you start day one, you know nothing about marketing, and I think it's being open with, especially with your colleagues, because you are working in a role in a functioning company in marketing, and you just need to say, you know, I don't understand this, I'm not sure what this is, or just any question, just being open to and being curious about what every little thing is, because I think you start to learn little chunks of information which eventually builds up over the months, and then you think, well, actually I do know the answer to this, I can solve this problem. And I think it is just, you know, not putting the pressure on yourself to think that I should know what I'm doing because, you know, I'm X years old.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's a completely new industry. You just got to go into it expecting to learn.
Brilliant. That's really helpful. There's another question that's popped in, and I'm not sure who's going to take this. I'll read it out to everybody here, and then whoever can pick it up will. Peter says, do you have any tips or advice for apprenticeship interviews as someone with little experience in digital? And I actually think that it would be interesting to hear from the panel, actually, as well as maybe Andrew and Zoe, you're going to chip in here, just about what you would do differently or do again in your interview. I think that would be helpful to know, really.
Yeah, I don't mind answering that to start with. So there is a methodology which really helps, which is called a STAR. So it's situation, task, action, and resolution. I think that's really helpful when you start actually drawing your personal experience. It doesn't need to be necessarily in digital, but you can demonstrate your thinking and what you would do in that situation in a more structured way. I think that is the main thing, but it's always demonstrating that you are willing to learn more than anything. They're not expecting you to be experienced, but you are willing to learn and you're quite curious. That's my advice.
Okay, brilliant.
It's all about enthusiasm. Like that's exactly what I got with my interview. Like it's not a case that in my own experience, it wasn't a case that they were expecting us to know or expecting me to know everything at all. Exactly why you're going into an apprenticeship. It's be yourself and be enthusiastic. If you want to go down a role of learning it and you're enthusiastic about it, show that you're enthusiastic about wanting to learn. That's the only piece of advice I can give.
I would also say is, as well as being enthusiastic and willing to learn, being honest as well, because I think quite a few of my interviews there was always the question of, you know, why an apprenticeship, why now, why digital marketing? And I think it was really a question of having to show why I'd made the decision to go into digital marketing, why an apprenticeship, and what was driving me. Just because, you know, I think a few employers sometimes may assume that you just, you know, fancy changing jobs, but it's really that you want to prove that you want a career change, and that you're in it for the long run.
And Liz, you spoke actually about that research that you did to figure out exactly what transferable skills that you had, and you took a good 6 months to kind of define that. So can you just talk us through a little bit about where you even started with that and the kind of tools that you used?
Yes, so obviously places like the Gov.uk website, looking at that, the National Careers Service, I obviously found was great. It gives you a lot of basic information about different industries, different roles, expected salaries, you know, job types, and the kind of skills required. And it was really just a lot of research on the internet to start with as to what possible avenues I could go from, you know, maybe searching on Google, like, you know, what jobs use Photoshop as a skill, or what jobs use, you know, communication. So for me, it was a case of starting there and then actually doing more research, going on to LinkedIn and finding people I knew who were a connection who had that job role maybe, and sending them a message and saying, hey, I'm considering a career change. Could you give me some information about, you know, what you do day to day, and you know, what are the benefits and the challenges of the role? That's really interesting.
I think if I can just come in there, I think they're really good points, Liz, and I think it's about doing a bit of an inventory, really, about what it is you want. You know, what are you passionate about? What makes you happy in a professional sense? You know, is it about helping people? Is it about solving problems? Is it about being able to indulge your creative side? You know, really be honest with yourself. so that you can start to then identify, you know, what you've got to give, what you want to get out of it, and what's available to you. And I think that point you make is about getting talking to people who've got the job you think you want is critical, because that will really help you sort out the sort of the detail about it, and it's not a job title, actually what's underneath that. So, and LinkedIn is a brilliant forum for that. You know, if friends, family, tap into them. You know, people will be honest with you when they're in a role, and then you can do the research about what qualifications you need to get to it. But I think that's really key. And yeah, the National Careers Service. I will just say, for information about careers in IT specifically, because this can be quite a hard thing to drill into. These careers are still, you know, quite new careers. There's not a wealth of information about that, and you know, we don't all have role models who are doing these careers because it's ever evolving. So I would just point you towards the careers inspiration videos that we've got on the BCS website. There's a sort of suite of short videos that give a lowdown on a range of jobs, really, from people who've taken up all different paths into their careers, both in large, small companies, and those that've gone alone and set up their own companies. And there's videos about life as a app developer, working in cybersecurity, life as a business analyst. And they're all on the, I'll put a link to them in the chat, but they're all on the open access on the website. So it's quite a good way of getting underneath the skin of it as well.
Brilliant, thank you. So yeah, I was going to say if we could link that in the chat at some
point,
that would be really helpful. And also you mentioned the National Career Service. I will just say that they are doing the session themselves this week. So for anybody out there who thinks that might be interesting, they've got some specific questions that you know you're not asking here, then that would probably be a good session for you as well. Right, that's been popped into the chat, which is lovely. Right, I've got a couple more questions actually. I think this is an interesting one. I know we've all spoken about everybody's different backgrounds, and pretty much nobody's got a background in digital. But there are a few myths out there, especially when it comes to technology. And I think it'd be really helpful just to kind of answer it again in kind of plain form. What, you know, can we debunk some of these myths? You don't need a degree to enter this field, and you don't need to be good at maths and physics and so on, do you? Is that correct?
You don't need a degree, that's correct. That is one of the most common myths about a career in tech. But you don't. There are multiple pathways, as we've been hearing just today. And a degree in computer science or a similar subject is one of them, but there are so many. Employers really want to see you've got the skills they need to succeed in the role, and it's and provide a solution to their problem. And I think all of our career changes today have talked about the soft skills. And it's not a great term, is it? Because it sometimes feels like it doesn't really value them as much, but actually they are so critically important to a role in tech. So, you know, whether it's communication or something, you know, a great communicator often, you know, bridges that gap between a great idea and the final product. So, you know, these are things to be sort of harnessing when you're thinking about, you know, what you need by way of skills. It's not necessarily a degree. But what are other myths? We've got, yes, about the maths. Yeah, no, not necessarily. You don't need to have, you know, be top of your class right the way through school in maths. Some roles do rely on a much more creative approach, such as, you know, the design-based roles. And also, you know, I think it might have been Jacqueline earlier who referred to a mindset. And, you know, the same with maths competency, actually. It's crucial, it's confidence and it's a mindset. And you can build that, you can build your skills up rather than it being a fixed ability, you know, I'm no good at maths. Well, that's not a thing. You can, you know, you can have the maths you need to have for the role you need. So I think, you know, although a fundamental grasp of sort of number and arithmetic and algebra is probably unavoidable in many routes, you know, many roles in the tech sector don't involve advanced maths. There's the stereotype, isn't there? The other myth that you won't fit in. You know, we all know the stereotypes. I won't say that the word begins with G, but the stereotypes that still persist in TV and media about those that work in tech, but they're just not relevant anymore. You know, it's the great thing about digital careers is the sheer number of them, and there's lots of room for flair and creatives in there. So that myth is you know, really ripe for debunking. The tech world is full of creatives, you know, whether it's web design or content creators or marketers. This is talking about product strategists. And And I think there's also a bit of a myth that you go into IT and that's your role, you stick at it. But again, the career paths in IT are endless and sort of interweave, and there's, you'll find that many of the skills requirements you've got will be similar between roles. So once you've mastered the basic skills set and you're willing to learn, again, that's something we keep hearing today, isn't it, about that lifelong learning. There's nothing stopping you from switching roles once you're in the sector. So I think they're the main myths I've come across. I don't know if anybody can think of any.
I just think it's interesting there, Zoe, how you've actually hit the nail on the head, and it is kind of stating a kind of an obvious point, but it isn't until you think about it. IT isn't really what we people stereotypically thought of maybe 5 years ago, especially 10, because like you said, and Andrew said at the beginning of your presentation, Andrew, the world is digital. Kind of everything that we do is digital. It's no longer sitting behind a screen necessarily coding or doing particularly really advanced specific things. It is all about e-commerce and communication online, and pretty much, we're online now doing this. I think that it's really interesting to think of IT as where it's placed now in terms of how it touches every part of our lives, and also what's going to look like in the future. What is the sector going to look like in 5 years, 10 years even. And I think that obviously with roles like this and platforms like this, then it's a great opportunity to enter something that is A, future proof, and B, growing massively.
So quickly. And I think it'd be easier almost to think about a sector that doesn't involve digital skills or IT. I'm not sure I can think of one.
No, definitely.
That's happened very quickly,
Yes.
And I think that's really interesting, right? Because actually, every single person that's on this call right now has already showcased and evidenced a degree of aptitude in using technology just by accessing this call, right? Using the kit and the caboodle that's got you here today. It's not all around rebuilding computers or writing long strings of code to change the world. It starts at a very basic fundamental level. And the way that the different interventions in training have been accessible or are now accessible enable you to make those small incremental leaps in your own knowledge. And that could be through, as I say, through some of the funded learning elements that we've talked about today, apprenticeships, traineeships. Equally, there's such a wealth of material online, through BCS's digital skills, through Future Learn, through the National Skills Toolkit, that will give you these basic building blocks to start building your careers and then step into employment and move forward. As you've already said, there's no longer a corporate ladder in technology roles. It's a massive web of interconnected dots and places that you will travel throughout your careers, and each one of those will give you an insight and exposure to a new task or a new skill that you'll be able to carry forward and share with your next role or your next colleague or your next employer, and vice versa. It's almost a constant stream of learning and evolution.
Yeah.
But there's that saying, isn't there, now that's going around that we can't be thinking about having a job for life anymore. It's a life of jobs, and I think we've really got to get used to that idea that it's going to be a constant wave, recurring waves of retraining, upskilling, so that we can, each and every one of us, have agency about our own direction. And there is a wealth of stuff out there for people to be able to do that. It's sort of cutting through the noise a little bit and understanding which of the courses and qualifications that have value. There's a piece of work to do about that. But there's a lot out there. If we think about the Lifetime Skills Guarantee and the National Skills Fund and all of those level 3 qualifications that are now suddenly accessible to people who don't already have a level 3 qualification, you can take one for free. No matter what age you are, whether you're employed, unemployed, there's a lot out there. It's just finding what you want, and then there is a way in. There's a role and a way in for everyone. I think that's the
Brilliant. I think, so if you're happy for me to share this video now with the contact details and some signposting for where to find further information, then after that, if yourself and Andrew could just, give a final couple of words on where to find specific information, and perhaps for people who are completely new to digital, where they can begin their research and start piecing their pieces together, that would be helpful. And anybody that's here, there's still so many of you in the room. If you've got any last minute questions, we've got about 5 minutes to go. So if there's anything that hasn't been asked or answered, please just pop it into the chat while I'm just playing this video. Just bear with me one moment.
Are you lacking direction? Facing job uncertainty, or looking for a change of career? Do you want more guidance about your career options? Are you unsure where your existing tech skills can take you? Browse Sophia Plus can help you to solve all these issues and more. Developed by BCS, the Chartered Institute for IT, Browse Sophia Plus provides a way for individuals to assess their skills and find out which skills they can develop to get exactly where they want to go. Start by accessing the Browse Sophia Plus module in My BCS through the Career Development tools. Then find your job role or search for a skill. Each skill and job description includes typical background, associated work activities, and skills already attained at this level. You'll also find training options, development activities and qualifications available to reach that level. You can plot your current skills against the framework, uncover your latent skills to find out which roles you would succeed in, and learn about the BCS certificates and professional standards that will support you in your career development. When you're ready, easily export skills and descriptions as a Word doc to use in your CV or portfolio. If you want to identify career opportunities, develop new skills, and discover potential roles that you would excel in, try Browse Sophia Plus today.
Thank you. I think we're pretty much at the end of our presentation, aren't we, guys? Yes, Zoe and Andrew, if I could just hand over to you for some 5 points, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, thanks. For me, I think what we've sort of ascertained that digital is everywhere, isn't it? And there is a role for everybody and a way in for everybody. So I think if you're starting to think about what you can do to make sure that you're sort of keeping up to date with IT in your current career, about what options might be available for you if you wanted to pivot over to a new one, there's various things you can start doing today. You can join a professional organisation such as BCS. So it's a great way to stay on top of emerging tech that directly affects the industry you're in. For example, IT Now is the quarterly BCS membership magazine, publishes articles on all aspects of computing and IT. Attend conferences, events, loads of accessible online events now. See what innovative ideas are on the horizon for the tech that's maybe in the role that you're already in or the role you want to be in. Keep learning. I think that's been the key message from today, isn't it? Invest in yourself and your own professional development. We see as a society we're moving over to a more sort of modular, bite-size approach to building up a set of qualifications that you can stack and grow as you do that. So be proactive and seek them out. That then may in turn lead you along your path to a role you didn't know possible. So I would point you towards the qualifications and certifications page of the BCS website to see what we've got on offer. TED Talks podcast, fantastic way of keeping your ear to the ground about what's new, general tech news and industry specific advances, and look outwards. Look at what other companies similar to the role the one you're currently in are doing with tech that give you an insight into what's around the corner. So yeah, lots of things you can get on with today.
Lovely, thank you, Zoe.
Thank you, Zoe. And I suppose just a couple of bits to add to that. I'll put in a a contact route in the chat box if any of you want to find out a bit more about QA. Equally, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I won't be quick getting back to you, but I will get back to you, I promise. And then lastly, just to loop back to a question that I think Una asked in the chat earlier about return to work programs, and just more generally, right? All apprenticeships certainly are accessible to people in employment. It's just about finding the right employer and the right provider. Those apprenticeships can be delivered on a part-time basis or a full-time basis, depending on your role, and your employer and provider will work together to figure out what that looks like for you. There's also a huge volume of other training courses available. Obviously, some of the ones that we've already talked about, but digital skills boot camps have been designed for returners to come into work and to develop new skills and move into technology roles. Equally, for people moving within employment into a tech-enabled role, there are literally hundreds of options, and any support that we can give, or BCS or anyone else can provide around looking at the most appropriate entry point for you, I think will be absolutely crucial to you deciding where to step next. So I can't recommend the National Careers Service session enough in that respect, but also speak to providers, speak to existing apprentices, and there is plenty there to help you.
Brilliant. Well, I think that's my cue to thank you all. We're having some messages through the chat now, just people saying goodbyes and saying how informative it's been and thanking you all. And I'd like to say the same. I think it's been a wonderful, informative session. I think Zoe and Andrew brilliantly put together. Thank you very much. And to our Career Changes, the panel there, for just sharing so many of your own personal experiences to help people mould their own futures. You can't really get better than that. I'd like to just say again to everybody who's still here, this is going to be available on demand, and we will email it to you as well. Just give us a little while to get it through to you because there's a lot of sessions this week. But I would just like to say thank you and goodbye. And information will be sent through to you over the next week or so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.